Hi, my name's Keegan. I'm a volunteer with Time's Up, and this is the Time's Up Criminality Suspected Ride. We're going to be going to 8 sites where pedestrians and cyclists were killed by automobile that were committing at least one traffic violation. And yet the NYPD determined that there was no criminality suspected within hours of the crash and has not released the accident investigation reports to the public, including the victims of the families. This was a cyclist biking with traffic who was hit from behind by a dump truck that was reportedly speeding. Yet within hours, the NYPD said there was no criminality suspected. And even now, 2 months later, they haven't identified who this was. This is where Mir Hussein was standing on January 20th, behind his parked cab, when another automobile slammed into his cab and pinned him against the wall. That other automobile was obviously speeding to shove his car onto the sidewalk. Yet the NYPD declared that no criminality was suspected within hours of the crash. And the AIS report still has not been released to the public or his family. This is another place where one automobile collided into another, sending that second automobile careening onto the sidewalk, where it killed this unidentified woman. That car must have been speeding and not using due care, yet within hours of the crash, the NYPD suspected no criminality, and as you can see, they still haven't even identified who this woman was. On September 22nd of last year, Ruben B. was crossing this intersection with his wife. According to all eyewitness accounts, they were crossing with the light. 2 cars careened into each other in the middle of the intersection. One of them ran over Ruben as he shoved his wife safely onto the sidewalk. One of those cars was obviously going against the traffic light, speeding and not using due care. Yet within hours of the crash, the NYPD suspected no criminality. And to this date, the wife of Ruben has not been able to get the accident investigation report. It is at this site, on February 21st of this year, that Rio Oyamada was killed by a police car. No criminality was suspected within hours of the crash, and this is one of the most egregious cases where the NYPD has not released their investigation reports. They claim to have video saying that it was Rio's fault, but they have not released that video to the public, including Rio's family. On March 4th, Greg Kelly said that the NYPD would no longer use the word accident in regards to traffic violence. He also said he would expand the AIS and its scope, and he implied that this had already resulted in 1 criminal charge against the driver. Unfortunately, there is still a huge discrepancy between how the NYPD investigates car-on-car collisions and pedestrians and cyclists killed by automobile. Tenzing Drunick was standing on a sidewalk when a car sped onto the sidewalk and killed him. Yet the NYPD released the driver with no criminal charges because they said it was an accident, just 1 week after Ray Kelly made his announcements.
This is in 3 schools here, in a college, and the speed that the cars have, and they don't have any traffic police. I'm so upset because this happened to this boy, it can happen to my kid.
This is where Martha A. was killed on February 22nd of this year. A driver blacked out from not taking his diabetes medication and careened onto the sidewalk, killing Martha. No criminality was suspected by the NYPD within hours of the crash. This is one of the more surprising places where the NYPD has not suspected criminality, because losing control of a vehicle because of impairment is one of the primary reasons that the NYPD can suspect criminality. If you're impaired because of drunk driving, the NYPD will pursue criminal charges. We're not sure why it should be any different if somebody does not take their medication and is impaired and still chooses to drive a deadly vehicle in the streets of New York City.
It was on April 17th last year, 2012, that Mike Rogal, a veteran UPS driver, was making a delivery right here, and a person driving an SUV down Beacon Street distracted herself. Her husband in the passenger seat noticed that a car was pulling out of a parking space on the other side of the street, yelled to her. She overreacted and smashed up over the curb onto the sidewalk and struck him, pinned him against this stone building right here, and 4 or 5 days later he died.
More than 150 pedestrians and cyclists are killed every year in New York City, and in the vast majority of those cases, no criminality suspected, and the AIS reports are not released.